Ever wonder what really happens after a product has its big, splashy launch party? Well, the truth is, that's not the end of the story at all. It's just page one. Marketing isn't some one and done event. It's a continuous, ongoing conversation with the world that is always, and I mean always, changing. It's really a never-ending cycle of listening, learning, and then, of course, responding.
Okay, let's make this real for a second. Imagine your biggest rival just slashes their prices overnight. Or maybe your target audience suddenly migrates to some new social media platform you've barely even heard of. These aren't just hypotheticals. They are the kind of high-stakes, real-time decisions marketers have to grapple with every single day. And your next move, it could literally make or break your business.
So, what's the core challenge we're talking about here? Well, it's all about learning to navigate a marketplace that is in constant, completely unpredictable flux. The real goal is to see that change coming and to adapt your strategy before it's too late.
And that's really the heart of it. You just can't create a marketing plan, hit the launch button, and then walk away. It doesn't work like that. The most successful companies out there, they are the ones constantly revisiting their decisions, always ready to adjust based on what's happening in the real world right now. Okay, so how in the world do you navigate all this chaos? What's the essential tool for making any sense of it all? Well, the answer, in a word, is data. So let's dive into why it's so incredibly powerful.
First things first, we've got to understand a really crucial distinction here. By itself, data, just a collection of raw, unorganized facts, is pretty much useless. It only becomes powerful once it's organized and given some context. And that's the magic moment when data transforms into information, something you can actually use to make smart decisions. Marketers basically view the world through two main lenses. So on one side, you've got quantitative data. These are the hard numbers, the what. Think things like website traffic or sales figures. It's totally objective. But then on the other side, you've got qualitative data, and this is the why. This is the stuff that comes from focus groups or customer interviews. It's descriptive, it's observational, and it tells the rich stories behind all those numbers. What's really fascinating is that collecting both of these types of data is completely natural to us. I mean, just think about a toddler who finds a rose. They gather qualitative data, right? It's white, it smells nice. But then they grab the stem and, ouch, they learn some hard quantitative data. One rose has many thorns. See? We are all just natural-born data collectors. All right, now let's look at the actual journey map that pretty much every product follows. It's a framework that marketers use to understand a product's past, its present, and its future. You can really think of it as the chapters in a product's life story. This journey has a name. It's called the product life cycle, or you'll hear it called the PLC. And it's an incredibly powerful tool for managing a product's success, tracking it all the way from its grand introduction to its eventual final curtain call. So there are four main chapters in this story. You have introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Now, the length of each stage can totally vary, but this is the classic path that almost every product follows. So let's break them down one by one. We kick things off with the introduction stage. I want you to think of the high marketing costs here, like the fuel a plane needs just for takeoff. It takes a massive, massive amount of energy and investment just to get off the ground and start building that initial awareness. Honestly, this stage is incredibly risky. Sales are low, costs are sky high, and profits are often negative. The entire goal is just to educate customers and get them to simply try the product. You'll see some companies use a high initial price, it's called a skimming strategy, it's kind of like Apple did with its first watch, to try and quickly recover their investment from those early adopters who are willing to pay a premium. Next up, if everything goes well, is the growth stage. And if the product really finds its audience, this is where things get super exciting. Sales start to climb, and a lot of times they climb very, very quickly. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch: success attracts competition. As your sales are rising, you can bet rivals are going to jump into the market. I mean, when Diet Coke took off, it wasn't long at all before Diet Pepsi showed up on the scene. So the goal here shifts from just building awareness to aggressively defending your market share. So now we enter the maturity stage. For most products out there, this is the longest chapter in their story. Sales have peaked, the market is absolutely saturated with competitors, and most of your customers are now repeat buyers. To survive this stage, you have to get creative. The goal is to extend it for as long as you possibly can. And you see this all the time, right? When brands like N&M's introduce new flavors, or when RX Bar totally redesigned its packaging to stand out on a crowded shelf, which, by the way, dramatically boosted their sales. And finally, well, every story has an ending. In the decline stage, both sales and profits begin to fall. Now, this isn't always a sign of failure. A lot of the time, it's just due to new technology or a fundamental shift in what people want. Apple's iPod Nano is just a perfect example of this. As the iPhone, a much more advanced technology, rose to dominance, the need for a separate music player just declined. So this leaves marketers with a really tough choice. Do you harvest the product by cutting costs to squeeze out any remaining profits? Or do you divest and just drop it from your lineup altogether? And all of this brings us full circle. See, the product lifecycle isn't just some passive timeline you watch. No, it's something you actively manage by connecting all of these pieces into a perpetual, never-ending feedback loop. And this loop isn't just about your product either. Great marketers are constantly scanning the horizon for these larger, uncontrollable forces. A new trade regulation, a surprise recession, a cultural shift. All of these external factors can dramatically change the game, and you have to be ready to respond. So how do you keep track of all this? Well, with a marketing dashboard. And honestly, the car dashboard analogy is absolutely perfect. It is your control panel for monitoring all of your key performance indicators, all that incoming data, so you can make quick, agile course corrections on the fly. This is your cockpit view. A good dashboard visualizes everything you need all in one place. So you can see those hard metrics, like revenue, sitting right next to soft metrics, like customer satisfaction. It lets you see the whole picture at a glance and make informed decisions without getting totally lost in the weeds. And here it is. This is the never-ending loop in action. You collect data, you analyze it to find insights, you adjust your strategy based on those insights, and then you measure the results with new data, and the cycle begins all over again. It truly never stops. And look, this isn't just some theory for big corporations. It's a fundamental principle for anyone trying to communicate an idea or sell a product. Your performance, your customers, your market, all of it is constantly sending you signals. So the only real question is, are you listening?